Hey there, my name's Jeffrey Way, and in this series, we're going to be taking on a massive amount of work. I'm going to teach you HTML, I'm going to teach you CSS, I'm going to teach you everything that you should have learned in university, but you didn't, or you didn't study in school. We're going to start at the beginning, choosing code editors. We're going to learn about image editors. We're going to learn about HTML, CSS. We'll eventually work our way up to using JavaScript. Everything you need to know will be contained in this series, and you're free to go about it step at a time. If you need to rewatch a video, definitely do so. And when you feel ready to move on to the next level, go ahead and jump to the next video. So in this lesson, we're going to get started with the tools that you require to begin coding. And as you'll find, the best thing about web design and web development is that you can really get started for free if you want to. Some things do cost money, but there are alternatives that are free that many people use. It's a very cool industry from that perspective. So let's get started. Before we can begin coding, and don't let coding scare you, it's creating markup, creating web designs. We need to have a text editor or a code editor. So what choices are available? Well, I'm going to assume you use either Windows or a Mac. So let's take a look at our available options. Let's first start with the Mac. Far and away, the most popular code editor on the Mac is called TextMate. It's extremely simple, but it's easy to use. Now do note this is not free, so keep that in mind. If we want to check the buy now option, it's going to cost you around $58. Now, the next option is another tool for Mac called Espresso, and this one has really been gaining a lot of traction in the recent year or so. Again, this one is not free, but it can be purchased for $79. Both of these code editors are considered to be fantastic. Okay, the next step is what we call an IDE. Now, I want you to be familiar with this, but I'm not going to recommend you check it out just yet. This is for developing much larger, much richer applications, and even at that level, many people prefer to use these more simple editors. So keep in mind that there are tools called IDEs, Integrated Development Environments. They're much more massive. They do a lot more. You're not ready for them just yet, but maybe in a year or so, you might want to take a look at these. And the last editor for Mac that we're going to look at, and keep in mind there are plenty, but these are the most prominently used, is called Text Wrangler. So this one is not on quite the same level as TextMate or MacRabbit's Espresso, but that said, it's still a good editor to get started with. Okay, so now you're on Windows. In that case, you might want to check out eText Editor. Now again, this is not free, but this is considered the Windows counterpart to TextMate. And this, again, TextMate is incredibly popular in the web development industry. This is meant to be the Windows sibling for it, and it works really wonderfully. And the last one for Windows we're going to take a look at is called Notepad++. So I understand the design is a little bit shady here, but don't let that deter you. Notepad++ is free and one of the most popular editors for Windows. It's fantastic. So regardless of whether you're a Mac or a Windows user, any of these will put you on a high level. So with that out of the way, what else do we need to get started? Well, believe it or not, nothing else. You can begin creating web pages with those tools. You might want to pay some money if you're invested, and I would recommend you eventually do, because programs like TextMate or Espresso, those are really good tools. It's what the pros use, and if you want to get to that level, you should begin using them as well. Now, if you're just digging in, maybe you're a high school or college student, go ahead, maybe stick with a free tool like Text Wrangler or Notepad++ on Windows to get a feel for if this industry is for you. Now, the next step though is eventually, not yet, but eventually, you will need an image editor. So the most popular one far away, I'm sure you've heard of it, is Photoshop. Most recent version at the time of this recording is CS5, and this is a massive, massive image editor. And it's expensive too, but there's something to consider is that it's probably worth the cost because this is the industry standard for editing images. So you might be thinking, what does that have to do with coding? Well, the irony is you'll spend half of your time in Photoshop, especially if you will create websites for a living. You'll do what we learn as slicing designs, and that's being used in Photoshop. Also, if you begin to accumulate clients, Most of the time, they will send you designs that are in a PSD format, and that is specific to Photoshop. So you should eventually look into investing in this once you've decided that you absolutely want to learn this field. In the meantime, an alternate is called GIMP, and this is an open source editor, 100% free, and it's naturally not going to be as powerful as Photoshop, but you can still get the job done for the time being, and that's going to work on both Mac and Windows.